Well, hello there again. Welcome back to Startup Lawyer Up. My name's Austin Nowakowski. I am the owner of Nowakowski Legal, PLLC. We are a law firm that is located in Seattle, Washington, and we place a large focus on assisting entrepreneurs to remove the legal roadblocks that tend to get in their way when they're trying to make their businesses successful. In the next couple of videos, I'd like to talk about the different entity forms that a business can create itself as in order to start doing business. There are several different forms. I've spoken of them briefly before in my previous video. There are sole proprietorships, there are partnerships, limited liability companies, corporations, both S Corps and C Corps. And I'm going to, in the next couple of videos, go over each and every single one of those, how you go about forming them, what the ups are, what the downs are, and anything else that you might need to know in regards to choosing which entity form you'd like to go with. Today I will be discussing a sole proprietorship, as that is the simplest and most direct form that you can form for your business. So what is a sole proprietorship? Well, in the most basic sense, a sole proprietorship is just you. There is no actual entity that would be formed by a sole proprietorship. There are no filings that are required to be given to the state for purposes of notifying them that you are creating a sole proprietorship. A sole proprietorship is essentially created by you going out the door and essentially starting to do business. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of people out there that don't even realize that they've created a sole proprietorship. If you are a consultant, or if you're a graphic designer, or if you're an artist and you just started selling your services or your goods to people, you might have actually created a sole proprietorship and didn't even know it. So that is probably the major benefit of forming a sole proprietorship. It's quick, it's inexpensive, and you're able to create your business the moment you need it to be created. But what are the other benefits of creating a sole proprietorship? Well, there are a few. One of the other major benefits for creating a sole proprietorship is that it makes it very simple for you to file taxes for your business. While it's still very advisable that you utilize an accountant for purposes of accounting and tax needs for your business, it is much simpler than for any of the other entity statuses that are available for businesses. The IRS considers sole proprietorships to be pass-through entities, which essentially means that the profits and the losses of your business will pass through directly to you. As such, all you need to do when you are filing taxes for your business is file your normal Form 1040, and you attach what's called a Schedule C for your business's profits and losses, and you attach what's called a Schedule SE for your self-employment taxes. These are the two major forms, or the two major schedules that need to be attached to your Form 1040 for purposes of filing taxes for your business, and that is normally it. Sometimes there may be other things that you need to take into consideration when it comes to employees and whatnot, but those are questions for your accountant. But normally, that is all the difference between filing your normal taxes and when you're filing for a sole proprietorship. I will actually go ahead and leave a link in the comment section below that will take you to an IRS website, which will provide all of the tax requirements for a sole proprietorship, and it will also provide you with all the forms that are necessary for filing taxes for a sole proprietorship as well. The next benefit of a sole proprietorship is somewhat of a double-edged sword in that it is a benefit, but it also comes with some restrictions, and I may consider those to be somewhat of a detriment. That is that you have the ability to utilize a name without having to file anything with the state for your business. However, that name is usually restricted to requiring you to utilize your full name and then a description of your business. So for me, Austin Nowakowski, if I wanted to start a lawn care service, it would have to be called Austin Nowakowski's Lawn Care Service, or Austin Nowakowski's Lawn Mowing Service, or something along those lines. If I wanted to utilize a different trade name, if I wanted to call it something like Lawn Care Mowing United, or Lawn Care for Everyone, or something like that, I would be required to file what's called a trade name application, or a DBA application with the state. These are very simple forms to fill out, and the only real requirement is that you check and make sure that your name isn't taken. But I will actually be going over how to file a DBA application in a future video. So if you want more information on that, then just tune in for a future video and I will discuss it, and you'll know fully how to go ahead and file for your DBA. Another benefit to forming a sole proprietorship is that, contrary to popular belief, sole proprietors are actually able to hire employees. For whatever reason, many people think that sole proprietors aren't able to hire employees, but you actually are. However, if you do decide to hire employees as a sole proprietor, you're going to have to start taking into consideration other items such as employment contracts, and you will have to acquire what's called a EIN, an employer identification number, from the IRS. If you don't have employees, you don't need an EIN, but when you do get employees, you will need to go ahead and file for one. Again, in a future video, I will be going through the process of acquiring an EIN, so if you do need to learn how to file for an EIN, just stay tuned and I'll go through that pretty shortly in the next couple of videos. And the last major benefit for forming a sole proprietorship that I will speak about is that basically you don't have to worry about anybody else telling you what to do. You don't have to worry about any arguments because there are no partners, there are no other members, there are no other shareholders or anything like that. You are the one in charge. You are the end person, the beginning person for everything in your business. So that is that. So you won't have to be forming anything like a partnership agreement. You won't have to be creating an operating agreement. You won't have to be worrying about minutes for your business or anything like that. Your sole proprietorship is essentially a self-sustaining entity because normally those agreements are required in the event that there's an argument between the owners of the business. And in a sole proprietorship, the owner is you, so you're probably not going to have too many arguments with yourself. That being said, this will start leading me into the major detriments of a sole proprietorship. And one of those major detriments is the same thing. You have no partners, you have no other owners, you have nobody else to rely upon for anything in regards to the upper management of your business. No other owners have a stake in it. So again, when it comes down to it, it's just you running your business and you're the only person that you can rely upon. In this same breath, you have no ability to sell equity in your sole proprietorship. Because the moment you were to sell equity in your sole proprietorship or the moment you were to sell a part of your sole proprietorship to somebody else, it would no longer be a sole proprietorship. You would either be forming a partnership or you would be forming some form of another entity that you can then provide equity to your investors in. So that is another major detriment to a sole proprietorship. It is not necessarily built to acquire investment from people that are interested in buying into your company or your business. I want to clarify that really quickly. That doesn't mean that you can't sell parts of your sole proprietorship to other people. It just means that if you want to bring on investors or if you want to bring on partners and you want to sell equity parts of your sole proprietorship, it will no longer be a sole proprietorship. So you might have different tax implications, or you might have to form an entity in regards to what your investors want you to form for purposes of selling them equity in your business. So please know that you can sell parts of your sole proprietorship to others, but the second you do, it will no longer be a sole proprietorship because you will no longer be the only person that owns that business. And now that leads me to the biggest detriment to forming a sole proprietorship and using that for your business. And that is, of course, that there is no liability protection whatsoever for sole proprietors. The other entity forms have some form of liability protection, whether it be actual limited liability, as it would be in a limited liability company or a corporation, or at least in a partnership, you at least get to split up the liability between you and your partners. And then there's other forms of partnerships which actually do limit liability a little bit as well. But with a sole proprietorship, you have no liability protection whatsoever. What does it mean that your sole proprietorship doesn't offer you any limited liability protection? Well, let's take a look at this because it's very important that you understand this concept. As I said before, your sole proprietorship and you, for most legal purposes, are not considered to be different entities. You are considered to be the same entity. When you take this into consideration for liability purposes, you start to understand why this is important. For example, if you were to take out a loan from a bank and your company was not to repay that loan to the bank would not only be able to come after your company for repayment of that loan, they would be able to come after you directly for repayment of that loan. Again, because when it's sole proprietorship, your business and you are not considered to be separate entities. That means you personally, your assets, your money, your livelihood will be responsible for any and all liabilities of your company. This is also to be taken into consideration for any injuries or damages that your company might cause. So if, again, taking my example of having a lawn care service, if I was to accidentally run over somebody's bushes or somebody's fencing or something like that and cause damage to their property, they would not only be able to just sue my company, they would be able to sue me directly for the damages that were done to that bush or that fence or whatever. This becomes even a little more terrifying when you throw employees into the mix, because now any damages done by those employees while doing services or work as your employee are now the responsibility of your company, and as such, because it's a sole proprietorship, you would be responsible for any liabilities that your employees cause as well. This is one of the major detriments to a sole proprietorship, and you should very carefully take it into consideration when you determine whether or not you want to utilize a sole proprietorship for your business. Because of this last major detriment, I am generally very hesitant to advise any clients whatsoever to utilize a sole proprietorship for their business. I just don't see that the benefits outweigh the detriments in regards to the loss of liability protection. That being said, there are some very, very small instances where it might be okay to go ahead and form a sole proprietorship, at least for a little while, and then later on go ahead and form a more protective entity. For example, if you don't have a profession or a service that you offer that's very exposed to liability, it might be okay to go ahead and form a sole proprietorship right off the get-go. This would be something small, like perhaps if you were an artist, or if you were something that you're not exposed to really much form of liability out there, you can probably go ahead and form a sole proprietorship and be okay. Also, again, as to one of the major benefits I mentioned earlier, if you need to form your business quickly and efficiently and just get it out the door, you can form a sole proprietorship very early on with the idea of converting it to something later on. It's not very difficult to convert a sole proprietorship from a sole proprietorship into a partnership or into an LLC, or even into some of the higher level corporations and whatnot. However, if you do this, I still advise you to very sparingly do anything that would expose your company to liability whatsoever, because again, any liability that comes to your company is going to be coming directly to you. So with that, I think we've gone over pretty much all the major considerations for a sole proprietorship. If you have any other questions or concerns, please feel free to go ahead and leave them in the comment box below, and I will respond to them as quickly and as thoroughly as I can. Other than that, I will be putting up some other videos in the next couple of weeks talking about the other different entities that you can utilize for forming a business, all of which I think are probably a better choice than a sole proprietorship. But again, we've gone over all of the detriments and the benefits of a sole proprietorship in the video here. So if you want to go ahead and form a sole proprietorship, you can. I would just highly suggest taking the other entities into consideration. So with that being said, this was Startup Lawyer Up. I'm Austin Nowakowski with Nowakowski Legal, PLLC out of Seattle, Washington. My contact information should be up in the corner over there. And thank you for watching my video, and have a great day.